Well, the kids are out of school and I have a long to-do list. Is the summer the new New Year's? Well, we should talk more about that. Well, hello friends, I'm Mary Beth and welcome to At What Cost. So right around February, I started dreaming up some things that I wanted to accomplish this summer. Of course, I had been, all about the New Year's resolutions in January, and some of them have stuck around. Some of them went really well. In fact, I probably should do an update video on that. So let's keep that in mind for an upcoming video. But having my kids out of school and having a much slower pace at my house feels like the perfect time to start some new habits and maybe get rid of some old ones. But I also want to squeeze in summer vacation and I have some other obligations. And as I look at all of the things that I would like to do, it feels a bit like eating an elephant. And do you know how we eat an elephant? Say it with me now. One bite at a time. Let's talk about how we can figure out what those bites are and how to sort of manage them so that we can feel really productive and like we've accomplished something this summer. Now, I happen to be an expert at putting too many things to do on my list, but I'm trying to be a little bit better about that, or at least planning some of these things out a little differently than I have in the past. The first step is to really get a good brain dump kind of list of what you actually want to accomplish. Now, this doesn't have to be completely thought out and it doesn't have to be these big long-term projects. There could just be short-term things that you want to get done. Put everything on the list. Don't worry about organizing them or thinking through all of the steps that you'll need to do to complete them, the financial cost of those things. Just let it fly, get everything down on paper or note in your phone or however you like to keep track of things. Let's talk about some of the things that I want to accomplish this summer. Number one, my kids need to learn some new chores. It's time. Our youngest son has mastered laundry. He is rock solid on the laundry, but our older two boys, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute, aside from keeping their rooms clean, putting their laundry away, and just sort of generally cleaning up after themselves, we have not expanded into some newer chores, and that is high on my priority list. I also have my own personal goals. So I have books that I want to read. I have decluttering goals for my home and organizing goals and all kinds of just things that I would love to do that sort of just like float around in the back of my head that I think if I have a free moment, oh, I could do that. They just haven't come to fruition yet. I also teach a women's Bible study. Of course, I have this YouTube channel. I also have started writing a book, which I have to work on this summer some as well. And I also have a day job that has absolutely nothing to do with any of these things, but I do that about 9 hours a day. So as you can tell, my time is a little pressed. Now, I do have a tremendous amount of help this summer having my mom here, which is great. She takes the boys out on adventures during the day when I'm working. She's a big help around our house and she is an absolute treasure and I love when she is here. But it feels like quite a few things to try and accomplish during the short 8 weeks or so that our kids are going to be out of school. So there's definitely something to be said about using this time when things have slowed down to start some new habits. There's less stuff happening. There aren't all of the school activities and spirit days and homework and things that have to be sent in. I'm not getting up every morning and making lunches, and we're on a much more relaxed schedule. The kids can stay up a little bit later in the evening time. And so it just feels like the right time to start working on some of these newer habits. Now, of those tasks, and this is something I have been working with a life coach and she is phenomenal. She's one of the absolute keys to my success and productivity. But one of the things that we have talked about that I think would be helpful for you is going through this list and just sorting it based on what would be nice to do and what is a must do. So what have I absolutely got to do this summer? Are there things that have deadlines? Are there things that are going to prepare you for the next year? Are there things that others depend on you to do or that have some other type of deadline? For example, we started ripping up our flower bed in front of our house and built a small retaining wall. I need to plant some plants in that area, or our HOA is going to be sending me a letter very soon, I would imagine. So replanting the flower beds goes on my must-do list. But there are some other things that would just be nice to do, like cleaning out under the spare bedroom bed. I would love to be able to do that this summer, but if it doesn't get done right now, it's not entirely the end of the world. It's still on my list, it's still available for me to do, but it doesn't quite reach the priority level of must do. Now, once we get through with prioritizing these things that are the nice to do or must do, now we can focus our energy first on the must do's. These are the things that are an absolute priority for me. I don't want to waste time planning out nice to do things, even though some of them may be more fun. I don't want to waste that time coming up with all of the steps and figuring out what I need to do if those are not actually going to end up on my high priority list. I want to first focus on my absolute must-do items. So as I'm thinking about the next steps for these items and what they will actually encompass, I want to look at each individual item and decide things like how much time it's going to take, how much time I have available, when I actually have the time. If I were going to put this on a calendar to do this stuff during this time, where would it go? What are the resources that I need to be able to accomplish it? And what happens if I don't? Now, this is not about setting ourselves up for failure and some self-fulfilling prophecy, but it can take a lot of the pressure off if I think through some of the potential outcomes if I don't actually complete this. Like, what if I don't actually teach my kids any new chores this summer? Now, even though this is on my must-do list, it's a high priority for me and I really value it. Things happen. Life sometimes just blows up, and this is one of those things that is life going to be completely derailed and nothing is going to work now if my middle son doesn't learn how to do laundry this summer. Well, no, it's not actually the end of the world. I could fold that task into some other time of year, or maybe it just gets bumped to the list for next year. Now, this may vary depending on the task that you have and the expectations that others may have for you around it. But focusing on each individual item on your list and the resources, the steps, all of the things that you need to complete that can really help to break your list down and make it feel a lot less overwhelming overall. Now, one of the things that we've talked about is teaching our 2 older boys a few new chores, or at least one new chore. I think one new chore each is probably a good starting place. And even for our youngest son, he is also going to learn a new chore. It just may not be the same that the other 2 are learning. It's important to note that my older 2 children do have some developmental delays, so learning new things can be really cumbersome for them and for me. But what I realized is that something as simple as cleaning off the table can actually have quite a few steps. Now, I would not have really thought about this, I guess, especially as an adult and already knowing how to do a lot of these tasks. I may think about this, but not to the extent that I really need to make sure that I'm teaching these skills well. So you may have encountered this. Perhaps when you were in high school, you had to give an instructional speech on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you had to break down every single step. I feel like this was a common assignment for most people. Maybe just me. I don't know. But we take for granted all of the steps that go into doing something simple like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But as I think about teaching my sons this chore of doing laundry, I really do have to break down all of the individual steps. So as I'm considering this, I'm also thinking about the resources that I may need to complete this. They're going to need a picture of how to do this. So all of these steps with some visual guide to help guide them along the way, because my goal is to help them be a lot more independent. Now, one of the other goals that I have for my kids this summer is that they will watch far less TV and be engaged in some of these other activities that I would like for them to be doing. Something that worked really well for our middle son during the school year was having a schedule, a visual schedule in the morning that he could move tasks that he had completed from need to be done to already done. And so I think this summer I'm looking to set up a schedule sort of like that. So have you made your bed? Did you pick your room up? Did you put your pajamas in the hamper? Is there laundry you need to put away? Just some of these things that they can visually check off their list before they go on to the next thing. So now that I have thought through the steps or the different areas of these tasks that I want to complete for them, I want to think about resources. Now, if I'm going to do this Velcro sticker movie thing, I'm going to need some laminating paper, some Velcro tabs, and I'm going to have to complete the chore chart. These are all things that I want to record on my list around those tasks so that I have everything that I need when I set out to do that task, or at least prepare for it. Now, this is something on my list that's sort of a one and done. Once I create all these things and I put them up, then we start a different phase of this goal, which is really just teaching the skills and following up behind our kids. But this process can really be applied to any of the goals or aspirations or dreams that you have set out to accomplish this summer. Let's talk about a goal that is maybe more reoccurring over the course of the next few weeks. I know that each Wednesday at 7 p.m. I have women's Bible study. Before that, I'm going to have to do my homework throughout the week. Now, this particular study has 7 days of homework, and I'm going to fold this into my quiet time. That's my typical routine through the school year, is to get up early, get into my Bible. I have been doing the Bible recap first, and then I will set aside some time to work on homework for my Bible study. So I know that I need the book, I need some pencils and colored pencils and my Bible and things to sort of keep me organized on track with the actual tasks that I'm doing in my Bible study. But I also want to designate the time to do this. So when am I actually going to do this? Well, I know that my quiet time is from around 4:30 until usually about 6:30 when I start work. Now, we're going to talk more about my morning routine because I realize for some people that may seem a little extreme, but I do fold some other things into that time. So be on the lookout for that video coming up soon. And be sure to subscribe if you have not already so that you don't miss out on the notification for that. But this is a reoccurring task that I know I need to put on my schedule. Let's look at this process for a goal that may require a lot more work up front, but then maybe has some gradual check-ins throughout the summer. Now, we talked about the chores prior to this. When it comes to scheduling it, I don't necessarily have a set time that I'm going to follow up with them on all of these things. And certainly throughout the day, the things that they're doing, if they're going to be at a camp or they have like $2 movies on Tuesdays, the times that I'm actually teaching them and following up on it may vary. But the time that I'm actually going to spend planning this and creating that structure to completing this goal, that's what I'm going to put on my calendar. So I know that on Friday evening, let's say for 1 hour between 8 and 9, I am going to create these chore lists. And on Saturday between 6 and 7, before everybody gets up and gets moving around, I'm going to do all the laminating. I want to break this out into my calendar so that I know and I have a planned set aside time to accomplish these things. So now that we have completed this process for all of our must-do items on the list, it's really just time to repeat the same process for our nice-to-do items. I've got my priorities out of the way. Those are already planned, scheduled, and ready to go. Now I can sort of sprinkle in some of these nice-to-do things in some of the gaps that I may have, or if I find myself with the absolute unicorn called free time, I can pull from this list to get something accomplished and feel like I've had a big win. Now, ideally, I would have wanted to finish all of this planning and have everything ready to go by the time the kids got out of school, especially because the whole month of May just seems to be absolutely overwhelmed with activities. I know know a lot of people will call it Maycember, and I totally felt the pressure of that this year. It's not too late to just jump in and start working toward these goals. You may find that because you've done some of the planning now on the front end, the things that you didn't think you'd have time to accomplish during the school year, because you've already planned out the steps and maybe even accomplished part of them, you may be able to fold those into your schedule in the upcoming school year. I am certainly looking forward to the benefit of having my kids do a few more things around the house that may also free up some of my time to complete some of these would be nice to do items. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you again, keep fighting the good fight.